Activate your energy.
Welcome to the Activated Authors Podcast, a show where we distill the core principles of what it takes to become a happy, healthy, and productive author, no matter what stage of the journey you're at. I'm your host, Daniel Willcocks. I'm an international best-selling author, as well as an author coach, speaker, and creative entrepreneur. But most importantly, I'm a lifelong student of all things productivity, psychology, and human behaviour. Thank you for joining me for today's episode. Without further ado, let's dive in. What is up, Activators, and welcome back to another episode of the Activated Authors Podcast with myself, Daniel Willcocks, and here with me, and I'll let her introduce herself because she got mad at me last week when I said her name.
My name is Samantha Frost.
Thank
Hello.
you.
And here with me this week, I have a little one.
Hello.
And who is this little one?
I'm Robyn. Hello.
Yay, we
I
got
was
a
here a couple of weeks back. And hopefully you can hear me now. So there we go.
We could hear you before. I'm not going to do
Perfect.
this again because the body.
Don't do it. Yeah, we've got a returning visitor. Hey, Rob, how's it going?
I'm all right. How are you?
Doing wonderful.
Question.
Oh,
Good.
present to the group. Sam, how are you?
I'm good. Me and Rob are sat so close together because I've got a fisheye mic. And if we sit like a little bit further away, our faces start to look really very strange. So we're sat very close together.
I do feel very outweighed on the scales against the screens.
Yeah. Well, you should because you are. But that's okay. Yep, I'm good. I think I covered it last week. Not much has changed.
Mm-hmm.
I had 2 mystery naps yesterday, and yesterday is now a mystery. But apart from that, I'm the same. Yeah.
Yeah. What's been going on with you, Rob, since we last chatted on this podcast?
Not okay with this UK heatwave, first of all, but I've countered that by joining a gym because I need to get rid of Cedric, my little friend. My little rolls for people listening. It would be my stomach.
Why Cedric?
Cedric.
That's my nickname at school.
Oh. I don't know about this.
But why Cedric? Where's Cedric come from?
It was that or Derek. Those are your 2 options.
Of course it was.
What other options are there?
Frankfurt.
Jimmy.
But yeah, no, apart from that, just cracking on. Words is going good. Halfway through the draft of book 2 in a new series. And yeah, ticking along.
Damn. Making it happen. I am in a flux of... I'll be fully transparent. I'm in a full episode of disassociation. So I've mentioned this on previous podcasts and stuff, but I definitely have a tendency... One of my stress responses is disassociation, which for anyone who hasn't experienced disassociation is essentially... It's like you're floating through life and you can't really like register or capture much.
Yeah,
and so not in a good way. No, not like a good high of some drug. I don't know drugs well enough to know what the floaty ones are like. Maybe mushrooms?
Sure.
Maybe some kind of mushroom? Maybe. Well, so there's a lot, as there always fucking is on this podcast, there's a lot going on behind the scenes, which is always fun. And so I'm just kind of trying to mosey along and keep on top of stuff. And I am. My body seems to react, and my mind seems to react by just doing things. Not necessarily the right things I should be doing, but doing productive things, which is quite nice. And you two are smirking because you both know why. But that's where it is at the minute. I've still got the cough that I've had for ages, and I just had a chest x-ray this morning to see if it's an infection of any kind. I get my results back. NHS insert date here. And so, apart from that, I am enjoying books. I am writing things. And I've hammered, thanks to Rob, Pokemon Legends Arceus this week. So I've been playing a lot of that. Because I completed it a while back. And then I got a new Switch and it doesn't keep your save data and transfer it over. So I went from the beginning and it's been glorious. So that's my little roundup. What is something we've enjoyed this week, Sam?
Oh, no. Well, I very much enjoyed that Rob's come to see me.
Yeah.
That's nice. I've also very much enjoyed... I won't go into detail too much because it's not my thing to say, as it were. But it's back to school time, which is always stressful. but I very much enjoyed just how my medium man is handling himself. Because it's not easy for him, and he's doing really well. We're trying to find him a new school and stuff. There's a lot going on with it. But kind of until we get there, he still has to be in a place that isn't necessarily the best for him. And he's handling himself with more grace than I think a lot of adults would currently.
Yeah.
Definitely more than I would.
Especially in the city.
Fat old hypocrite.
That's the really hard part about being a parent, isn't it? Like talking to a kid and being like, I don't do this stuff, but you're gonna.
Yeah. The amount of times that I have to stop myself from telling him how to get away with not doing the things he's supposed to do. I'm like, he's not quite old enough yet to know when to apply this without getting caught. Like, in a couple of years, I'm going to be like, sit down and let me tell you my secrets. But right now, I think he'd get caught. So he's not ready yet.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm enjoying that. I'm trying to think if there's anything else.
A book?
I'm really enjoying, oh my God, look, it's right here. So I'm currently reading a lot of fantasy for, well, one, I love fantasy, and two, research purposes. And I just started last night. I love that cover. God Killer. It's God Killer by Hannah Kana, I think is how you pronounce her name. Yeah, it's gorgeous, isn't it? And I literally, because this week I'd said to myself, I'm going to try and start getting back into things. I'd messaged you and I said, you know, I want to get back to myself. I'm done. I'm over like all of this shit. Like nothing has changed with my physical or mental health. I'm attempting to try some stuff. And it hasn't gone very well, I'll be honest. I've been really trying, but I've not got a lot of stuff done. And after essentially either passing out or falling asleep, I don't know, I have no memory of those things for most of yesterday. I was in bed and it was almost 1 o'clock. And I was like, I need to get some sleep. And I was like, do you know what? I'm just going to read a couple of pages of the book that I have said I'm going to read. Because I've got a big old pile of books over there. That's like the first pile of books I want to get through. And I said to myself I was going to start with this one because it looks pretty and it's not too thick. So it's like a good book to kind of get me back into the habit.
Yeah.
And I meant to read like one page, but I fully got through the prequel because it's really good. I'm really enjoying it. And then afterwards I had a sense of like, oh, okay, I've done one thing. Got Carol Vorderman here helping me out. So there we go. That's that.
Perfect.
What about you, Rob? What's something you've enjoyed this week after I just monologued?
I have enjoyed two things. One of them is a treadmill at the gym.
What?
I know, I'm sorry. We need to pin that off.
Yeah, put a pin in that. But
it's just nice walking for a change and not feeling obliged to do it. I am obliged because it's the gym. But it's nice, air conditioning.
Yes.
And it's an easy exercise I can do where I don't, and this is a very much me complex, don't feel inferior going to the gym. I've been to a couple before and I hate with an undying passion hearing people do things like the weights because it really puts me off. Yes, the full King Kong run.
Yeah.
Like, it's not okay.
It's not.
This is the first gym I've been to in a while where I don't feel like I should be in a corner with a light that's flickering. Just keeping myself to myself, which is quite nice.
Just keep your eyes down.
Yeah.
Down.
So that's the first thing. And the second thing is I finally got around to watching The Last of Us on TV, and I very much enjoyed that.
Yeah.
And there was one episode, I was saying Sam earlier, there's one episode I bawled my eyes out, and I'm not a crier. And I'm not going to do spoilers, but you're going to watch it.
Thank you.
Beard. House.
Yes.
Yeah.
That episode for 40 minutes.
Yep.
Bawled my eyes out.
Yep.
And it was very much a conversation at home going, are you okay? Does this look okay? Does my face right now look okay?
Yeah, I know exactly what you mean. Have you played the game?
Yeah. No, never.
Oh, man.
No, I feel like it would be too scary for me. The TV was the level I was at with things that jump out at me. But no.
Yeah. There are many more zombies in the game, but the show was fantastic. And what's great about that show is it plays really good lip service to the gaming fans, because some of the scenes you can put side by side and they are identical to the thingies in the cutscenes in the game.
Yeah.
That's really cool.
And also, just well done on the gym stuff, because that, like, I fully understand the pressure, especially when you go into the gym and you just feel like everyone is doing all the big things, and you're like, this isn't.
I'm just going to go for a walk.
Yeah.
Yeah, and also, does anyone else get this like thing in your head where it's like, I want to go to the gym when I'm fit?
Oh, you sound like my old housemate.
No, like
I know what you mean.
I still go, but I have this thing in my head of like, I just need to lose some weight first, and then I'll go to the gym, because you walk in and you see like the grunty muscle men in the torture closets, and then there's always the 14-year-old gymnasts in their leggings and their bloody crop tops, like basically touching their ears with their feet.
Yeah.
And then you just feel like you're walking in with the soundtrack behind you. And you bloody, like, you stop and your stomach's still moving like 2 minutes afterwards, and you just and like and you just so I get well done.
Thank you.
My that was a 2-year argument I had with my old housemate, who kept saying he really wanted to do parkour when I used to teach it. I was like, well, just come along and try it in one of the sessions. No, I should go to the gym first and lose a bit of weight. I'm like, dude, try parkour. That's quite good at losing weight. If, like, you do a lot of what you do in the gym.
Yep.
Moron.
What have you enjoyed this week?
Enjoyed that?
Ranting. A couple of things that have all totally slipped my mind. So one of them at the minute, I'm reading Nick Cutter and Andrew F. Sullivan's The Handyman Method, which for people that don't know me, Nick Cutter is hands down one of my favourite authors of all time. He wrote The Troop, which is just an incredible horror novel. I got a chance to actually meet him in Pittsburgh, and he signed these books. So I've got like a really cool version of my favourite ever book signed by the author, which makes me very happy. That's a very good book so far. I'm only a few chapters in, but it's the first book in a while that, kind of like what you were saying, Sam, you just end up like, must keep going. And then mine's actually exercise related as well. So I have started going back to personal training once a week, and once a week's enough at this point. Like, it's like 55 minutes of just every part of my body getting put through a blender. And I am suffering hard today because, like, we did a lot of split squat jumps and alternates, and really got my glutes. So every step hurts. Back of my legs hurt. My arms hurt. My chest hurts, which is apparently a good thing. Because that was one thing. I will say, this is a bizarre thing. Slight tangent, also not. One thing I did find, I went through a phase a couple of years ago. I hit the gym hard, and I was like regularly, and I was eating, and I was following a personal trainer, and I went for about 4 or 5 months and got into arguably the strongest, not the best shape I've been in, but the strongest that I've ever been. And the thing that made me laugh was every day I was like, oh, today's the day that I won't hurt. But that's not how, when you're going to the gym regularly, you just get used to hurting every day, which is a weird thing to kind of just get used to, because then if you're not doing it and you're not hurting, you're then regressing. And God bless it.
It's like, because I used to go to the gym regularly, and I also ate well and all of the stuff, and I was in really good shape. And it is that thing of like, the exercises have to get harder because you're getting stronger.
Mm-hmm.
So it never feels easier.
No. I'm going to be so much stronger, and then this, and then you forget about all the lower weights, and you're like, oh, this is, yeah. Man, wait for the next week's episode, all about exercise, folks. Won't be. Our win from the community this week, I picked out 2 wins because they were both pretty freaking awesome. The first one is from Unnamed, who was accepted to be a judge on Reedsy. So one of our people, how cool is that? Accepted to be a judge on Reedsy.
Congratulations.
Well done, unnamed person.
Unnamed, redacted. And the second one is from our very own Faye Trask, who says, I don't normally post my wins, but she finished Arcane Legacy this week. So that is book 2 in her Arcane series.
Yes, Faye.
For people who haven't yet checked out the first book, Blood Legacy, it is available on Amazon by Faye Trask. Go check it out. Trask? I went very British then, and it really concerned me. Faye Trask.
Frost.
Check out the book on the Amazon of Faye Trask Blood Legacy. For smoothing good read. Jesus.
Amazing.
You're most
So
welcome.
that brings us on to the question, does it not?
It does bring us on to the question, does
So
it? Yes.
does that bring us on to... Yeah, so what's the question, Dan?
The question this week is, what if it's not going your way?
Rob?
Well, so before we put the pressure, I'll give a bit of context for this. So, because this can go in many different directions. So, this episode, the point of bringing up this question,
It's sponsored by all of our life breakdowns.
All of our bad choices.
partly. So, what I want to get across is that this isn't necessarily a pessimistic thing. This is very much a realistic thing, and everything that I say in this is meant to be taken with something of an optimistic twist, because I think when we sometimes look at things not going your way, and sometimes the idea of giving up, we see it as a very negative thing, but it doesn't always have to be, just to kind of share context. But the broader context is, as you kind of alluded to, you know, sometimes things pop up, you have everything planned, everything's on a roll, you're riding this high, things are going, you've got your productivity on hand, everything's awesome with your life. And then kind of linking a bit to last week's question of obstacles and things, you know, which I think was last week's. Anyhow, sometimes things go wrong. And sometimes the things that we grind away at for years and years don't pay off as quickly as they want them to, or indeed at all. And that's a very realistic view, because, you know, we between us will have known hundreds and hundreds of people who have tried to write something, failed in quotes, and felt like, you know, they haven't got anything more to give, and so they've pulled away, they've given up. And it is a very long-term endeavor. Trying to do creative work, trying to do stuff like this, there's a reason that it's such a labor of love. And there's a reason why, you know, people screw away for ages in the background, and so many people around you don't understand the context of what it means to be a creative. And it's really fucking hard sometimes to, year after year, month after month, however long you've been doing it, commit yourself to something to be like, oh, it's not quite paid off yet. It's not quite paid off yet. Now, I'm speaking from the experience of someone who has, my business is, you know, people who have followed my journey, or even on this podcast, have seen I zig and zag in a lot of different directions, because sometimes things look like they're starting to work and then they don't. Sometimes things do work, but it's not the direction that you thought was going to be good. And so trying to balance your passion with the thing that you're doing is hard. So I'm going to bring that round and say, what if it's not going your way?
Rob, you're our guests. Guests first.
I am going to say, first thing to do is just be okay with it, because sometimes it's just not going to work.
Yeah.
It's just not going to work. From a writing point of view, I hate saying this, we're not saving lives with words. If it goes wrong, it goes wrong, and that's fine.
You haven't nicked an artery.
No, exactly.
Yeah.
You haven't, like, nothing is going to happen. The world is not going to stop turning.
I better put down my book on how to do heart surgery.
Yeah, I would.
Yeah. And I'm going to redact being the first test subject from that. But it's okay. And there will be a way to fix it, or there will be people around you that can help you give a different point of view on how to fix it. And sometimes just sitting there for 10 minutes going, swearing, having a glass of wine, eating chocolate, it's fine. Just go with it, but understand that it will eventually get better, and there is going to be something that you can do, or a change you can make, that will wipe off that little turd and make it great again.
Yeah.
And I'm going to chime in later once I've got more time to think about it.
That's
There we
cool.
go. Over to someone else.
So I would say the first thing is, like, take stock. Like, there's a train going by. You probably can't hear it, but it's quite it's messing with my brain. Give that a second. There we go. I would say, like, take stock of where you are. So obviously things not going your way is quite a broad statement. And I was actually having a conversation with Rob earlier today about saying there's very few areas in my life at the minute that I'm happy with. Most of them are either like crumbling or just fully like chilling and kicking back with the Titanic at the moment.
Full Jack Sparrow.
Yeah. That is exactly what it is. So I would say, like, take stock, just down tools for a second, take a step back, like, and have a look, have a think, grab a pen and paper, and just like brain dump all of the shit that is bothering you and all of the stuff that is not going right and the stuff that is going right, and just kind of just look at it. And like Rob said, like, get to a point where you're like, look, it doesn't matter whether I have a tantrum about this or what, this is what it is. So this is where we are at. And then from there, you can start to understand and plan. And sometimes it is a case of just being like, I'm not going to do this anymore. And whether that is like a book that you're writing, whether that is a job that you hate that is making you miserable, whether that is a child that you need to put up for adoption, like there's all sorts of different options that you I was joking about the adoption. I just wanted to put that out there. No one cracked a face. I was joking about the adoption.
Well, we can still put that up as a soundbite.
But like, just to know where you are, there's a power in that. And just to understand like where you are and where you want to be. And yeah, sometimes like saying no or just quitting, whatever it is the best thing you can do. There is no failure in saying this isn't for me or this doesn't serve me. And whether that is like an entire project or career, again, like if you're coming from a place of sitting down and looking at something with sober eyes and just being like, I need to do what's best for me, and I don't love this enough for the fucking ball ache it is every day, I need to find something else because like it's draining me and I'm getting nothing from it. That is okay, and there is no failure in that. Like, finding who you are and where you want to be going is the most important thing, because life is short and we only got one, as far as I'm aware. But it can also just be a case of I need a break.
Yes.
Or like I need to just put this down for a while. And once you've kind of like done that and seen as much of that stuff that you can by yourself, and you've formulated your own opinions about your own life, then turn to people. Like, turn to people that you trust, friends, family, community, and just share how you're feeling, because there is no one on this planet that has not had those times. Some more than others, sure, but like we've all been through the times where you just feel like you're drowning. So I think turning to people that you trust and just speaking to them about it and maybe getting their opinion, but it is important to formulate your own opinion first, especially when you're in this kind of like spiral, essentially, because it's easy to take on other people's opinions as your own when you don't know your own opinion on something.
Yes.
Yeah, so I would say find out how you feel, find out where you want to go, like get other people's opinions, and then when you're ready, make a little plan. Whether that is like changing direction, whether that is just saying no to a whole bunch of stuff, or whether that's just looking at where you are and finding like some realistic small steps to get to the next space in that. So say, for example, you're in the middle of a book and it's not going the way you want it to go and it feels shit and all the rest of it. Like, is it because it isn't working, or is it because like there's other things in your life that are killing you and you need to look at those and then just step by step keep going with the book? Because you can edit, we've said this before, like you can't edit a blank page.
No.
And that's like, obviously that works for a book, but it's kind of a good metaphor for a lot of things as well. Like, you need to have opinions, you need to know where you're going, and then you can work from that. But yeah, I would say, like I said, what I've said, and then if it's still too much and if you're still feeling like you don't know what you're doing or where to go, and it does feel overwhelming.
Mm-hmm.
If you are fortunate enough to have an area that has a decent NHS mental health service, go speak to your doctor, see if they can help, and just take it a step at a time is what I would say.
Yeah.
That's a lot. I said a lot.
I think one of the things you said there though was you need to be ready.
Yeah.
Like you can't just
Oh yes.
you can't just start something again because you've got 3 different people's opinions. You had a conversation, you're like, yep, that's me done now.
Yeah.
I can push forward. You need to actually be ready in yourself to accept.
Yeah.
You drop it, you change it, or you park it.
Mm-hmm.
Like those, you can't just jump back into it because you've had 10 minutes of tantrum time.
It helps
We'll
it.
just end up straight in the straight.
Yeah, and
back.
it will just get worse.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like that, it will keep getting deeper, and then it's just harder to get out in the end.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
What
It
about
feels
you,
like,
Dan?
well, so it feels like, particularly speaking from someone that's been in the indie publishing spheres, but particularly for the last come up to 10 years now, you can get to a point where it feels like the most important thing to be in the sphere, to be talking to people, to be doing the writing. And writing is a beautiful, healing, wonderful thing that can do so much to help people. I speak a lot about how cathartic it can be to write my fiction and how like humbling it is to write the nonfiction and to know that you're helping people, that kind of stuff. But kind of what Rob said there, it's what we sometimes have to accept is that like writing isn't the be all and end all. So if you are in a game for a long time and it's not paying you back the dividends that you want to, jumping onto what Sam said, you have to assess, you have to stop, take a minute and essentially go back to the reason why you started and really try and consider what it is that this effort is bringing you and what you want it to bring you. I'll go back again to the happiness equation, which is reality is expectation. Happiness equals reality over expectation. So a lot of the friction, a lot of the unhappiness that we often feel is because we expect one thing to be happening while we're living in a part where that isn't happening. And the bigger that chasm is, then the more unhappy we are. And if we can get to a point in which we say, okay, here's where I'm at, here's a situation, and accept it. And it's not saying that's easy. There's a concept called the sunk cost fallacy, which is where you've put so much work into doing something and learning something that you're scared to drop it and quit it because you feel like all of that is wasted time. And so within a lot of trying to overcome these hurdles, there's big mindset shifts because, like you say, it's only failure if you don't take any lessons from the things that you've learned. And one thing that I always really try and remind myself is that, and by the way, I'll caveat this and say I'm not thinking about quitting writing. That isn't where this is coming from. But like, I in the past have done jobs that I never thought that I'd do. I've been people that I never knew that I'd be. So for a good few years, I taught parkour and I thought that was going to be my career plan for the next 20, 30 years. And then it stopped and I reinvented myself and did another thing and worked in corporate doing communications and marketing for a number of years. And then got to a point where I was like, I want to write. And so you can jump and you can do all these different things. And as scary as change can be a very, very good thing. And so, as I say, a lot of the projects that I've kind of tried along the way, many of them that haven't worked, some of them that have, they all give you these information points. They all give you these lessons that you can take away and go, okay, here's a thing that people responded well to. I'll try and do more of that. Or here's a thing that people responded well to, but I didn't enjoy it. Maybe that's not where I go. And I look at these other things. You have to find that cross section between what you're enjoying doing and what is actually reaping those rewards. And that's a very difficult thing to find, especially because I often do an exercise when I'm sort of really sort of stuck, where I will just write down all the big things that I'm doing, like all projects, all businesses in my case, all these different things that I'm doing. And then I'll look at them from 2 lenses. Number one, like what's bringing in the most income in different areas? And number 2, which ones am I enjoying the most? And then depending on your situation, which for me at the minute, I have to prioritize money because of what my goals are and the things that I want to do. It does mean that certain things you have to accept that you, as Rob says, like park it, drop it, put it aside, whatever it is you need to do. It's hard and you do have to be really honest with yourself. And I think sometimes people spend a lot of time curating who they think that they are on things like social media, things on podcasts, and telling this story that isn't necessarily the version of them that they are. Again, reality expectation. And so you get to a point where you're scared to then take other steps because you've presented yourself as this way, and you're worried that those people are going to not like you for being disingenuous, which then comes back to when I constantly say to people about, you have to be authentic, you have to be transparent, not in everything. And this is definitely my monologue, it seems, but I'll share a couple of and there's also a lag. Wonderful. And I'll also share a couple.
Oh yeah, big one.
Yeah, a couple of bits. A couple more bits. One of them was I did have a coaching session once with someone who had been an author for a long time, and they were writing, and it wasn't paying off for them. And in that conversation, they were kind of asking for advice, any kind of guidance to give new ideas that maybe they hadn't thought of. And I did post up the question. I said, what would it look like if you quit? And they were quite taken aback, as you would be. And I said to them, like, no one's going to die if you quit. Like, what does it make you feel like to say, I'm not going to do this anymore? Because that in itself is a real compass point. It's whatever your reaction to that question, if you really ask yourself, that will give you some suggestion. Because if you say, what would happen if I quit? And you're like, I'm not bothered, I'll do something else. Then that doesn't mean you have to quit writing, but it means maybe, there are other things that you can do. If you're like, I'll say I'm definitely in the phase of writing, because I don't know if this will last forever. But every time I'm like, I'm going to do something else for a bit, I come back and I start writing again. And I hate not writing. So that tells me that, all of this effort, even if it's not reaping all of the financial rewards I want, it's given me enough pleasure and joy and sustenance to keep going and moving forward. And as you say, Sam, you can quit temporarily. You don't have to quit forever. So you can take a break, you can take extended breaks. Like, our buddy Chris Kane went off and traveled and did loads of stuff for 8-9 months to get through a really rough patch of burnout. And that helped her. And she came back and she's writing again. And, other people, they'll go off and be like, I think once you get distance, sometimes you'll go, oh yeah, this doesn't actually matter to me as much as I thought it would. Because it's very easy to get caught up in the moment, to be running forwards, to just be in that tunnel vision. And ironically, me speaking, I think that's one of the big reasons that breaks are so valuable, like a proper break. Yeah. So my monologue done. Over to you guys.
Well, I will say, and this might seem like one of those random things that I say that doesn't quite fit, but I think it fits. There is a lyric by Beyonce.
I don't think you're ready for this jelly.
No, not that one.
The bounce.
And I'm trying to think of what I think it is. Hold up, maybe. Anyway, she's talking about a period where she knows that Jay-Z is cheating on her, and she doesn't know whether she should like talk about it or like hold it together. And the lyric always I don't know why, but it like hits home. And the lyric is, I'm not too perfect to ever feel this worthless. And it's the idea of like public perception over how you feel, and how you feel should always outweigh that. And I just love that line, because it, especially when I think about like past relationships that I've had, there's been those times where I'm like, no, I must remain like the what's the word that they use in marketing, that the optics must be perfect. And then like you realize the more perfect you appear, the harder it hits you personally. And I think with careers, particularly creative careers, because we put so much on the fucking line, it's a brave thing to step out of the like conveyor belt of what you're supposed to be and say, no, I want to be a writer, I want to be a dancer, I want to be an actor, and pursue those things. And whether you're doing them like publicly in the sense of online or in front of an audience, there's always that level of it being public, because your friends and your family know about it, and you suspect in the back of your mind there's conversations when you're not in the room,
for sure.
I wonder when they're going to get a real job, or I'm worried about them, or whatever. And when you're weighing up whether you want to do it or not, whether you want to quit, that plays into it. That plays into it. you allow those voices to have a seat at the table on your decision. And the truth is, they're not welcome in the room. But we know we don't want to give those people that satisfaction.
Mm-hmm.
And that's where that line means something to me, because it's like, you have to be okay in the dark at night with your head on the pillow by yourself. That's where you need to be like, I know I'm going in the right direction.
For me.
For me.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's what I would say on that.
Yeah.
Thank you, Beyonce. She's done all right for herself.
Well, yeah, I mean, community and having the right people around goes a hell of a long way. One extra thing that I made a note of that I'll add. I don't know if you can hear the dogs barking, but
yeah,
cool. As is my life. Is if you are sitting there thinking, "Oh, it's not going to plan," I'm finding it really hard because, especially people listening to this podcast, likely going to be self-published authors. We might have a few traditional published authors, but or people pursuing that. But as a self-published author, you have to do everything, and we kind of touched on this last week, Sam. Like, you've got the writing, you've got the marketing, you've got the business, you've got the finance, you've got the publishing, you've got all these different hats to wear, and maybe you're not set up to do it all. And so one thing to consider is finding someone to partner with, to collaborate with. I don't think I ever would have started a podcast in any way if it hadn't have been for collaborating with Luke and the other guys in Hawk and Cleaver. Like, that was a thing that it was very serendipitous. It all came together as it was. Like, it was fun. It was organic. There was no kind of like pressure. It just came out of nowhere, really. But if you can find those people, like I've seen a lot of authors that were struggling and then they've paired up with other people and then they help each other, because not only can you take what is the other person's weak point and use your strong points to balance each other out, but you've got someone as a comrade to push through and to do the things together. Like, writing with other people has been some of the most fun I've had on my writing journey, especially when they're the proper, like, into it partnerships. Like the stuff I did with Luke, some of the stuff I did with Jay, like, you're very in the weeds with the people. And so you just have that excitement bouncing off each other and it just rides for longer. So consider that if, things are really, really difficult. See if you can find someone to match the parallel of your shapes of your skill set. Geometry!
And I would just come back as well to the shit sandwich. I think I've spoken about this before. It's in Big Magic by Elizabeth Gilbert, where she says that, like, every profession, every vocation, every career, no matter how like passionate you are about it, no matter how much you want it, there will always be the shit sandwich that you have to eat that comes with it. So, like, if, like, for example, if you're a self-published author, like you say, you have to do all of the things, and no one is going to be naturally gifted at all of the things, and you're not going to enjoy all of the things. So therein lies your shit sandwich. And it's like, are you prepared to eat the shit sandwich? And if you're not, then go find something that you would eat a shit sandwich for.
As long as it's not a pickle sandwich, because I cannot stand pickle.
Yeah, you got the point.
Anything else before we wrap up this subject?
I would just say sometimes you need to take the courage. You need to be confident in yourself. You'll know what I'm talking about when I say I made a decision at the start of the year that's got me where I am now. And if I'd said no to that chance, things would have been a lot different. Sorry, it's all cryptic. Don't want to be all down about it, but this is like an off-air conversation. But if I hadn't made that choice, I wouldn't be where I am now. And that was the one thing I've done probably in about 10 years that has scared me the most, but also has had the most reward out of it. So there you go.
Yeah.
Wonderful. Okay, well, we'll leave it there for this week. And by all means, feel free to jump over into the Activated Authors Discord and answer the question, what if it's not going your way?
It's free.
It's free. And don't be afraid to share, because we've got lovely people in there that will no doubt support you, give you a pat on the back and help you with the things that you might need. And yeah, I guess we'll shout out. Oh, that was the other thing that I didn't mention. I was going to say at the beginning. I was on Draft to Digital this week. So,
Jesus Christ, yeah.
Yeah, so that was Monday.
Oh
no, last week. It happened.
God.
happened.
You were on Draft to Well done.
Yes,
Very recently.
Yes.
with Mark Lefebvre. So if you want to check out that conversation, that's over on YouTube. You can also find the link on my website. But yeah, definitely worth checking out. And so we will round it off there and say a massive thank you to you, the listeners, for tuning in. We appreciate you and the time you choose to spend with us each and every week. And as always, if you're looking to level up your writing and activate your author career, head on over to www.activatedauthors.com to find out all about our community, our resources, and everything else that we've got going on. One more time from myself, and from Sam, and from Rob. We will see you next week.
Goodbye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.
Activate your energy.